Myself Padmaja, Associate Professor, Department of CSE, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. Now, today's topic is on recursive functions. Now, what do you mean by recursion first? The term recursion can be defined as the process of defining something in terms of itself. That is called recursion. Now, in simple words, if a process in which the function calls itself directly or indirectly is called a recursive function. So, recursive function is nothing but if a function is calling itself directly or indirectly, then that function is called recursive function. Now, every recursive solution has two cases. First case is called the base case or the termination case. Second one is called the recursive case. Now, what do you mean by base case first? Now, base case is nothing but in which the problem is very simple enough to be solved directly without calling the function again. That is called the base case or terminating case. But in recursive case, the problem is divided into smaller problems and the function calls itself with the subparts of the problem obtained in the first step. That means the result is obtained by solving the subproblems and then combining the result in each step. Now, every recursive solution follows these two steps. So, until we reach to our base case, then recursively the problem or the function is calling itself to solve a small problem of its same type. Now, the recursive functions comes under divide and conquer approach. Now, first of all, what do you mean by divide and conquer approach? Now, in divide and conquer approach, first, a problem is solved by dividing into smaller instances. Now, each of the smaller instances is recursively solved and then the solutions are combined to find the solution of the original problem. Now, therefore, normally recursion concept is used for large and complex problems in which the problem can be solved by dividing into smaller parts. Each smaller part is solved independently, then it is combined to find the solution for the larger problem. Now, let us see one example to find the factorial of a number using recursive approach. Now, recursion by default uses a data structure called stack data structure. In the stack data structure, whenever the function is called, then the whole copy of the function is pushed onto the stack. So, the number of times a function is called, the number of times in the stack it creates it stores the function and then it is solved in the opposite order. So, because it is using a stack concept, so it uses the last in first out approach. So, let us see how to use the recursive approach for finding the factorial of a number. So, in this diagram you can see here, if a function is calling itself, then it is called a recursive function. This is called a recursive call or recursive function. Now, to find the factorial of a number, suppose you are writing a factorial function and where the function is calling itself using the formula n into fact of n minus 1. That means if you want to find out the factorial of 5, if n is equal to 5, then the formula will be 5 into factorial of 4. Again, factorial of 4 will be recursively called by using the same formula n into fact of n minus 1. So, it becomes 4 into fact of 3. Again, factorial of 3 will be computed using n into fact of n minus 1. That means 3 into fact of 2 and so on. So, this process will be recursively called till the number becomes either 0 or 1. Because the base condition is the n factorial. If the number n is 0, 0 factorial is 1 or 1 factorial is 1. So, the problem will be divided into smaller problems until the base condition is reached or the termination condition is reached over here. Now, first let us see the code for it and then we will analyze. Now, to find the factorial of a number, let us see this code. First read a number, int of input of read a number and then find out the fact, then call the factorial function. So, whenever you will call the factorial function, the control goes over here. So suppose we want to find out factorial of 5, n is equal to 5 suppose. Then it checks the base condition. This is the base condition, that whether the number that you have supplied is 0 or 1, because the 0 factorial is 1 and 1 factorial is 1. So that is our terminating condition or base condition over here. Now the number is 5. 5 is not equals to 0. Then it comes to the else part and it calls the function again, and the formula is n into fact of, so 5 into fact of n minus 1. So it becomes 4. Now again there is a call to the same function with the change in n value. So again it will go and call the same function. This time the value of n is 4. So the value of n is now 4 here. Now again 4 is not equals to 0. So again there will be a call. So 5 into n minus 1 f into fact of 3. So again there will be a call to the same function with a change in n value, that this time the n value is 3. So like that this will be repeatedly done until when n becomes 1. When n becomes 1 it will return 1. So by that time, so this looks like this: 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into fact of 1. Now fact of 1 returns 1. So that will be replaced by 1, and then it is computed as 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So this becomes 120. So 120 is the output. So every time the function is called, one copy of the function is pushed onto the stack. So it uses a stack concept here. So you can see this example of a stack. So when first time it is called, then the function is pushed onto the stack like this. So definition fact. So here the value of n is 5 first time whenever it is called. So the other conditions are written as it is. So else return n into fact of n minus 1. So when you write again, then again there will be a call made to the second time. So second time it is fact of 4. So here n becomes 4. Then again third time it will be made. Like that in the stack the code is pushed again and again until the base condition is reached for different values of n. Now let us understand how it works. Now you see here, suppose n is equal to 3. Now it is fact of 3. So for fact of 3, 3 is equal to 1. No, it is not equal to 1. So it is 3 into fact of 2. Now again there will be a call made to the same function. So now n value becomes 2. 2 is equal to 1? No. So 2 into fact of 1. So again there is a call made to the factorial function where the n value is 1. Now 1 is equal to 1? Yes. So true. So it returns 1. So whenever it returns 1, this value is returned to the previous function. So here it computes 2 into 1. Now this function was called by its previous function. So again it returns to its previous function. So 3 into fact of 2 is nothing but it is 2 into 1, that is 2. So finally it is computed as 6. So in this manner the factorial function is executed. Now let us see another example to compute the GCD of two numbers. So how to compute GCD of two numbers? To compute GCD of two numbers, there are different methods available. One of the method is called your Euclid's algorithm. So Euclid's algorithm is a very simple technique where GCD of two numbers is the largest integer that divides both the numbers. Now let us apply this and recursively apply this technique and find out the GCD of two numbers. Now for example, x and y are two numbers we are reading over here. So map of int of input of enter two numbers. So two numbers you are reading here, x is equal to 4 and y is equal to 8. Now let us call the GCD function by passing these two numbers GCD of 4, 8. Now whenever there is a call, the control goes to the GCD function. Now in this case x value is 4 and y value is 8. Now it will first compute using the Euclid's method, it will first compute the remainder. So the remainder is computed as x modulus y, that is 4 modulus 8. So 4 modulus 8, the remainder is 4. The remainder is 4. So if the remainder is 0, then the technique says that the other number is the GCD. So here the remainder is not 0, it is 4. So come to the else part. So we are calling the GCD function again. So here GCD is called again recursively by giving the value of y. Y is 8, comma, remainder is 4. So GCD function is called again with the two inputs, y value and the remainder 8 and 4. So here next time it is called y value is 8 and remainder is 4. So again it is stored into x and y. So 8 and 4. Now again compute the remainder second time. Remainder x modulus y, x is 8 here, modulus y is 4. So 8 modulus 4 is equal to 0 because it is completely divisible. Remainder is 0. So if the remainder is 0, then GCD is nothing but the y value. So here the y value is 4. So the GCD of 4 and 8 is 4. So you can see the output, GCD of 4 and 8 is 4. This is the simplest Euclid's method to find out the GCD. So here the GCD function is called by itself. That is called direct recursion here, and it is calling itself to find out the GCD. Now let us discuss about how many types of recursive techniques are available or recursions are available. So broadly you can say that recursions are of two types. One is called direct recursion and indirect recursion. What is direct recursion? Direct recursion means if a function calls itself from within itself, then it is called direct recursion. So direct recursion can be again divided into four types. One is called tail recursion, head recursion, then tree recursion and nested recursion. So direct recursion can be categorized into four types: head recursion, tail recursion, tree recursion and nested recursion. Now broadly the recursion are of two types, direct and indirect. So what is indirect recursion? If more than one function call where one function is calling to another one, function A is calling to function B and function B is calling to function A mutually, then that is called indirect recursion. So the number of functions can be more than two also. So A is calling B, B is calling C, C is calling A. It may be in a cyclic order also in indirect recursion. So if more than one function call one another mutually, then it is called indirect recursion. Now the recursion can be of again two types based on how many times you are calling the recursive function. One is called linear recursion, binary recursion and your multiple recursion or tree recursion. So we'll discuss one by one. So first let us talk about the direct recursion categorization. So in direct recursion, first is tail recursion. Now before going for tail recursion, let us see the pseudocode for direct versus indirect recursion. In direct recursion you can see that the function, direct recursion function, is calling itself, then within the function it is calling itself, then it is called direct recursion. Now in indirect recursion function, the function 1 is calling function 2 and function 2 is calling function 1. So they are mutually calling each other, so it is called indirect recursion. But the number of functions, it may be more than 2 also, then it is called indirect recursion. Now let us go for the categorization of direct recursion. First category of direct recursion is called tail recursion. So what is the definition of tail recursion? If a recursive function calling itself, because it is called direct recursion, if a recursive function is calling itself and that recursive call is the last statement in the function, that recursive call is the last statement in the function, then it is known as tail recursion. Now let us see, I want to print the numbers from 1 to 10 using tail recursion method. So how to do it? Let us check. Suppose initially n value is equal to 1 and now call the method tail print and pass the value of n, that is 1 here. So whenever there is a call to this method first time, so it is calling the function first time, n value is 1. Now we are checking the base condition. If n reaches to 11, if n double equals to 11, 1 is double equals to 11, no. So come to else part and you print it. So print the value of n. So 1 will be printed. Okay. Then there is a call to the same function again. So tail print n plus 1. So the value of n is changed to 2 now. Now again there is a call to the same function, but this time the value of n is 2. So again it will check 2 double equals to 11. No, come to else part, print the value of 2 and then again call the function with the new value of n. Now it is 3. Now it is 3. So like that repeatedly the function is calling itself. So it is a direct recursion method and the function call is the last statement in the function. That's why it is called tail recursion. Now let us see similar example for head recursion. So first of all, what is head recursion? Head recursion is nothing but if a recursive function is calling itself, that means it is direct, and that recursive call is the first statement in the function, then it is called head recursion. So only the difference is when you are calling the function. You are calling the function before printing or after printing. That means whether you are calling the function, if it is the last statement in the function call, then it becomes tail recursion. If it is the first statement, then it is called head recursion. Now you can see the same example over here. Now if you want to display the numbers from 10 to 1, first of all n is equal to 1. Now call the function tail print. So first time n value equal to 1. So there is a call to the function. So n value is initially 1. So it is checking the base condition that 1 is equal to 11. No. So the base condition is not satisfied. So come to the else part. In the else part, now tail print is calling itself again with the change in value to n plus 1. Now n value becomes 2. So you can see over here the print statement is never executed. So function is calling itself again. So now n value is changed to 2. Again it is checked 2 is equal to 11. No. So again come to else part and the function is calling itself with a different value of n, that is n plus 1. So n becomes 3. So like that the function will call itself n number of times until the base condition is reached. So when n becomes 11, then it will return. Where it will return? It will return to the last statement. From where the call was made, it will return to the last statement. So the last statement was to print the value of n. So what was the previous value of n? That is 10. So after that again it will make in the stack, it will make the return in the reverse order. In which order it has been called, in the reverse order it will return. For example, let me draw the tail print of, suppose let me take as 3, n value equal to 3. So whenever the tail print is called of n plus 1, so it was, okay, let us say it is 1. Okay, now it will be 2. So there is a print statement over here, print the value of n. So there is a function call, so it is tail print of 2. Then in the else part, again the method is calling itself, so this becomes tail print of 3 and there is a print statement over here. So again there is a call, so this becomes tail print of 3 and in the else part there is a call to the function itself, so it is tail print of 4 and there is a print statement. So the order in which it is called, in the reverse order it is evaluated. So like that we can write tail print of 4, then we can write down tail print of 5. Suppose our base condition is 5 for example. So when it reaches to 5, when n reaches to 5, so the statement is returned. So where it will return? So it will return to the next statement from where the function call was made. So it will always return to, the print statement which is there. So it will return, the control returns here to the print statement and it will print the previous value. So here the value of n is 4. Then after printing this, it will again return to its previous call. the next statement of the previous call. So it will print 3, then it will call, then it will return to the previous call. So it will print 2, then it will call here, then it will print 1. Like this the recursion or the recursive approach works. So for storing the function, it takes a stack data structure. This is a stack data structure. So this is the way head and tail recursion works. Now the next type of recursion is called tree recursion. Now before understanding tree recursion, let us understand recursion can be of again two types. One is called linear recursion, second one is called multiple recursion. Linear recursion means if a function is calling itself once, then it is called linear recursion. Similarly, if a function is calling itself twice, then it is called binary recursion. And if a function is calling itself multiple times, then it is called your multiple recursion or tree recursion. So, tree recursion is nothing but it is an multiple recursion. If a recursive function is calling itself for one time, then it is linear recursion. But otherwise, if a recursive function is calling itself for more than one time or multiple times, then it is called multiple recursion or tree recursion. So you can see one example here to find the Fibonacci series. So Fibonacci series is an example of binary recursion. So here the pivot function is calling itself twice. Suppose if you want to find out Fibo of 3, then it will call twice. It is Fibo of your n minus 1, that is 2, plus Fibo of n minus 2, that it is Fibo of 1. Fibo of 3 is nothing but this. To compute this, it is calling the function itself twice. So Fibo of 2 and Fibo of 1 is called. Again Fibo of 2 will be calling itself twice, that is Fibo of 1 and Fibo of 0. So this process is recursive in nature, and if you can see the diagram, Fibo of 6 if you want to compute, then it is Fibo of 5 plus Fibo of 4. Again Fibo of 5 is Fibo of 3 plus Fibo of 4. Like that it has been drawn into a tree. So if you will find out, if you will see the complete how to find out Fibo of 6, then you will find that it is like a tree structure. So each time the function is calling itself twice, and the overall structure is a tree structure. That's why it is an example of tree recursion also. So Fibonacci series is an example of both binary recursion and also tree recursion. Now next example, next type of recursion is called your nested recursion. Nested recursion means if a recursive function will pass the parameter as a recursive call, that means the function within function, if you will write, then it is called nested function. Similarly, recursion inside recursion if you will write, then it is called nested recursion. So nested recursions are very complex and tricky code. For example, if you want to solve the Ackermann's function in mathematics, then you need to take the help of a nested recursion or nested recursive approach. So you can see over here Ackermann number for m comma n, where m and n are non-negative integers. For this, if first number is 0, if m is equal to 0, then the Ackermann number is only n plus 1. Okay. Second condition is if m is greater than 0 and n is equal to 0, then it is a of m minus 1 comma 1. If m is greater than 0 and n is also greater than 0, then it is a of m minus 1. Inside that there is a recursive call, you can see here. Again it is calling the function a of m comma n minus 1. So this is the mathematical Ackermann's function. So to implement this Ackermann's function, we need a nested recursive function. So you can see the same conditions are written over here. So we are reading m and n values, that is x and y values. Then we are calling the Ackermann function of x comma y. So that is stored into m and n. So if according to the conditions of the function, if m is equal to 0, then return n plus 1. If n is equal to 0, then call the function by changing the parameter to m minus 1 and 1. And if m is not 0, n is not 0, then you come to else part and call the function by changing the parameter. The first parameter is m minus 1, but there is a nested recursive function. So this Ackermann function is written as a parameter inside another recursive function. This is called your nested recursion in Python. Now, after learning about the different types of recursive functions, let us go for the advantage and disadvantage of recursion. Now, the advantage of recursive function is that it improves the readability of the code and it adds clarity to the code because you are specifying there what is your base condition or terminating condition. If the base condition is not satisfied, then you are calling the function again and again. So there is a clarity in the code and it looks very organized and reduces the time complexity. Within less time, the problem can be solved than the iterative approach. But simultaneously, there are some disadvantages to this recursive approach. So, recursive functions are normally slower than the iterative function because it uses the concept of stack. That means every time the function is called, then all its parameters and the function code is pushed onto the stack. So pushing and popping takes additional time. So that's why these recursive approaches are slower than the iterative approaches, and it causes sometimes stack overflow condition also. So when the recursion gets deeply involved, that means very high layers of recursion you are writing or it is involved, then the stack overflow error may arise. So sometimes it will be, if you are debugging a program, then recursive approaches are bit harder to understand in every step what is going on, and it is harder to debug also. Now in Python there is a recursive or recursion limit is available. So the default recursive or recursion limit in Python is 1000. So in your latest version 3.9.1, if you want to check what is your default recursion limit, it is 1000 iteration or 1000 times you can call the function. And if you provide large inputs to the recursive function, then after 1000 the recursion error will be raised. So this error is raised or this exception is raised to understand that you have to avoid the stack overflow condition. But if you want to change the recursion limit, that also you can do in Python. You can use the sys module and use set recursion limit function to set the new recursive recursion limit. So in sys module you have two built-in function. One is called get recursion limit and set recursion limit. So using get recursion limit, you can know that in your current version what is the recursion limit size. So here I have checked get recursion limit for 3.9, it is 1000, and if you want to set the recursion limit to 1500, you can also do it from the by importing the sys module. So if you will set to a very high value like up to 10 to the power of 6, then large inputs can be handled without any stack overflow conditions. Now at the end, let us remember some important points regarding recursive functions. Now if you want to use any recursive approach, then first break down the problem into one or more sub-problems of the same type. That is the nature of recursion. Then each sub-problem can be solved using the recursive calls. Now the sub-problems can be smaller in size than the original problem, and it should be of the same type. Please remember this. Then finally the decomposition must lead into very small or into a very small elementary problem, so which is not further decomposed, which cannot be further decomposed into sub problems. Up to that point you have to decompose, and that is called your base condition or terminating condition. So when the problem cannot be further decomposed, then that particular sub problem is called the base condition or termination condition. So, or you can say this is the stopping criteria for the problem. So if you will remember these steps, then you can easily write any recursive code for your problem. Thank you so much. In this video you have learned about what is recursion, how to write a recursive code for the problems, and how to know what is your recursive limit and how to set the recursive limit. Thank you so much.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.